Look at this meat butt. Look at that meat butt right there. Oh my goodness. Oh yeah. Aren't you excited, monkey? Aren't you excited? Aren't you excited? Aren't you excited? Poke your little ear hole. All right, hey everybody, what's up? How's it going? It's Monday. Woo! Here's a problem, episode 406. 406. Damn, son. So, welcome to my lair. Iggy sent me a great article from Medium about basically showing that a lot of the naked selling that's happening is happening in European markets where like a huge number of US shares sold don't exist. And there's a giant loophole in the law structure that basically allows that to happen. And that market makers, hedge funds, European brokers, they're all taking like gigantic advantage of this and selling. I mean, the numbers were nuts. It's let's see here. Where were we? It's a very long article. Get to the top half of it, and it's all stuff about naked short selling, the mechanics of it that happens in the US and Reg Show. We know about those things. But it is like individual brokers in Europe was like $400 billion a year in naked sales, like failures to deliver were happening. And it's just Germany. Yeah. So sediment fails. 23.4% of all foreign stocks traded in Germany are fake. Don't exist. So it was, holy shit, that's a dollar amount? $29 trillion worth of US securities sold in Germany were phony. So there you go. There you have it. That's what's happening. So I've put the link for the article in there so you can read it yourself, but that just blows the mind. How about we do that? Cool. Oh, turn it off, Houston. Turn it off. Turn it off. What's on your minds? What's happening? We got a good chunk of you in here. Currently, the data stream is also terrible, but there's no one watching any videos or just makes me so angry. Why the internet does not work ever in this place, and I pay a lot of money for it. Laura Dubs, Houston. Hope you're feeling a lot better. Not financial advice, but how would you handle BBYQ shares showing as a loss for our taxes? I mean, if you want to take them as a loss, I guess do it. But I would call the broker and be like, hey, can I talk to your compliance officer? And when the compliance officer would be like, hey, look, on my statement, like at least Fidelity, that's where I have mine. Like on my October statement, I looked at it and it shows these shares as being held for reorganization. I did not sell these shares. I have no interest in accepting the loss on these shares just yet. So why are you recording it as a loss as if they've been sold? Tell me. And that's basically what I would do. They did the same thing with MMTLP last year. No one sold their MMTLP shares. They just got paper certificates instead. But Fidelity listed as if everybody sold and they were all going to owe a fortune because the sale price was way above what people paid in. And you had to call Fidelity and be like, look, dummies, I never sold these shares. They got turned into paper certificates. I still hold them. I am not going to pay taxes on this because you made a 1099 sent to the government saying that I should. And talk to your accountants if you have one and say, hey, let's amend this because I didn't sell these shares. I'm not paying taxes on it. So that's basically what happened with MMTLP. Yeah, it's such a weird situation to be in. I don't want the losses realized because if I say, hey, I want these losses realized, then they go, okay, you have no access to these shares ever again or anything that comes out of it. And that's what the shills were really, really, really trying to get people to do. Like, hey, call your broker, ask to realize your losses so you can get your tax break. Because they know that you basically give up any potential equity disbursement that happens if there's a credit bid. So, if there's no credit bid by next year, I'll take my losses then. Because I'll be like, all right, it's been a year. It's not happening. But I think we're just waiting for the pump and dump case to be toast, and then credit bid, and then off to the races. Grail for breakfast first. Oh, you are not first. Michael Ahero. Houston, China is printing $278 billion to prop up their market. China is going through things right now. Factories are closing like crazy. Youth unemployment is insane. There's a fantastic non-governmental stat about the number of people who hang out in the library in Chinese cities now is just through the roof. Because a bunch of young people who tell their family, like, "Hey, I'm off to work," and they get dressed for work and they leave, but they don't have a job. So they go hang out in the library and like read or apply for jobs. It's cheaper than Starbucks. You can meet chicks there. It's pretty crazy. Factories are closing in China like crazy because factory work is being outsourced. They're moving into Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos. A lot of other places in Southeast Asia are now opening up big textile plants, tech plants, manufacturing plants for cars and things like that. So a lot of what was being built in China, which had been being built in the US, is now going overseas. There's interesting things. So back when the US had huge manufacturing, we wanted raw materials. So we were in all these nations all over the world, basically figuring out ways we can like take over their natural resources. And now that we don't make things anymore, we're no longer in the business of controlling their natural resources. So we're losing soft and hard diplomacy we had all over the world as a result of no longer making things here. And so China's whole Belt and Road, $1 trillion Belt and Road system was specifically to get into these countries, exploit the resources, and take them over from the local populations. I wonder what's going to happen with the Belt and Road Initiative if China stops making things. In China also, they don't have an international currency. They have yuan, and the yuan is not used anywhere outside of China. So I don't know how you're going to become a service economy like the US if your money isn't all over the world. The US, we export our money and we can make people do things for us because they can take our money and spend it wherever they want. But you don't have the opportunity in China. And China doesn't want the yuan to go elsewhere because it will allow the billionaires in China to get the fuck out. Right now, they're limited to 50,000 yuan a year to export, which means, they got to go through weird laundering loopholes to buy their properties around the world. But they can't take a huge chunk of their money and just move it out of the country to an international bank. And they can't use that money like here in the US. It's enough for like a vacation. And that's about it. So it's a way of keeping these Chinese billionaires from fleecing the nation of all its wealth and then taking off, like what Russian oligarchs did when communism fell. But yeah, China has printed more money since 2020 than the US. It printed so much. And it's artificially valued. It's artificially pegged to the US dollar. So there's a set amount. It's not fiat. Chinese money is not fiat. It is artificially pegged to the US dollar. So it's always worth, 6.5 to the US dollar or whatever it is. And they will make official announcements changing the value of the yuan. So yeah, things are getting bad in China. The real estate market is gone. Youth unemployment's insane. Factories are closing. Import-export in the ports is dropping like crazy. A lot of the infrastructure they built is falling apart because it was built using shoddy materials and poor engineering. So I think the glory days of China is behind them. I think they peaked. China has peaked as a nation. They're in serious population decline, and it's declining really fast. So they're thinking China's going to have half the population in about 30 years, as it does today, which means even larger ghost towns, more factories closed. It's going to be a very, very weird and different place in China. They're going to need to import people to keep stuff open, and that's not going to happen. Meow meow. This show better be awesome. I just left a video of cats meowing Beethoven's Ode to Joy as it was getting good. Meow, 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 meow. And I forgot person with no name is now a problem solver. Fantastic, person with no name. Welcome aboard. Stephanie L. If there's a cash payout for MMTLP shares, Would shares left in one's brokerage be able to get paid, or only those that DRS? Not a clue. My guess is if there is a payout, everyone would get it. Excuse me. The ones that are DRS probably get straight from whoever is paying the settlement, and the ones who are out not DRS would get it from whoever's naked shorted those shares. That's probably where it would come from. My guess, this is what I'm guessing from the press release they had on Friday, is that they're working with the T0 token guys, right? And the S1s are all about giving everybody shares in Nuco, which is the subsidiary that's going to be doing all the drilling and stuff and oil exploiting. My guess is that they want to get everyone DRS. They can fill out how many real shares there are, and they can point to like, hey, look, all these people who didn't DRS and are still in brokerages by the millions, and then they offer a crypto stock in Nuco on T0, and that immediately just screws over all of the shorts if the government doesn't do anything about it. So basically, they're like holding a gun to the head of the shorts, and they're like, look, government, don't make me pull this trigger. I don't want to pull this trigger. But if you don't do anything about this, we're going to pull this trigger and we're going to annihilate all of the short hedge funds, and you won't be prepared for it. So why don't you negotiate a settlement, or give us 2 days of trading, or put nooses around the board members of FINRA's necks and hang them from the rafters? I think that's kind of where they're going from. The cat's not scratching the door. All right, fat cat. And then I start talking. You want to come in here? I've been here for an hour being silent. You had no desire to come visit us. But now that I'm yik-yakking, you little furball. Yeah, hi, bud. Go up there. Join that dog. Yeah, piss her off. Yeah, look at that. Oh, yes. You love that dog so much. That dog just cannot stand being around you. Oh, little fat boy. Little fat boy. Okay. Where was I? Cradle for breakfast. I caught my son chewing on electrical cords, so I had to ground him. Did you just fall off the ottoman, cat? Smooth move. All right. Meow meow. With Q4 announcing profitability for GameStop, do you think capitulation will finally occur? No. I think if they announce profit and a dividend, that will be what, if they start becoming a dividend stock, then the shorts go, fuck. And the stock price is just going to go up from there because they're offering a dividend. So it's no longer speculative pricing. Now the pricing is tied to the fact they're making profit and sending money every quarter to owners of the stock. And I think that is what is going to work really well. And then if they announce like, hey, we bought $1 billion in Apple or something, and now we get dividends on top of that, then woo, things are going to get good. I mean, if you do it right, let's say they got 1 point. All right. Do you know what this means? Da-da-da. All right. Oh no, I forgot to turn it off. I was gonna get a double calculator intro. Okay, so they have what, $1.2 billion or something. It's all speculation because we know that they're gonna invest this cash into something. Some things I don't know. But let's say they pick a dividend stock. They pick something like IEP. What's IEP trading at the moment? $17.61. All right. So they get nothing but IEP because that's a dividend stock we all know well. So they get themselves 68,443,100 of these things. Okay. Right? So that means if they take a cash payout on the dividends of this, right? So that means in a year, they get themselves 272 million of these suckers, which with 300 million shares is almost $1 a year dividends. So 25 cents a quarter for every single solitary share member just off of the excess cash, not whatever profit the company makes. So they could easily post themselves $1 a year dividend for the shareholders of GameStop out of an investment like this. So, hey, why not? If they just build it up and, go a couple of years reinvesting this stuff, they could easily double their shareholdings they have in the company in just a couple of years, and then they're doing $2-3 a year in dividends. So it's something. All right. I forgot to turn off the calculator intro. Calculator game. All right, turn that off. Okay, meow meow. Don't believe Houston's spiel about catching COVID. COVID isn't real. I met a guy in Green Bay wearing a foam cheese hat who explained that COVID is a total scam. It's true. It's all in your mind. Sometimes we just want to sit at home and watch episode after episode of Tacoma FD because it's funny. Lindsay Amon, Houston. So happy you're back. Watch your Friday show on Saturday morning. Stay healthy, friend. Well, we'll try. Sis 54. Goodbye to Santis. Shoe lift stocks in shambles. How long can Haley hang on? She has whitewashed herself enough to ever be competitive? No, she's going to get trounced. Trump will, vote-wise, get the nomination. But the nomination isn't official until everyone shows up to the Republican National Convention and, does their ayes and nays, right? But when is Republican convention? When is Republican convention? July 15th. Oh, they're screwed. So Trump has 3 trials. The first one I think is February. Second one is March. Third one's May. So they'll all be over by June, which means in that remaining 6 weeks, Trump's going to be sentenced in at least 2, maybe 3 of those cases before the RNC. It's going to throw that convention into such chaos because he will have the dominant, we're talking like 60, 70% of the delegates will be there for him, but he'll probably be reporting to prison sometime before that. And now what happens? So do you make it Nikki Haley? Well, all the always Trumpers, the MAGA people will be like, no, we're outraged, we're letting them from prison. But a lot of states have trigger laws that if somebody gets convicted of a felony and is serving time, they're automatically removed from the ballots. If he's convicted in the DC case, which is basically based on insurrection, he's already been removed from 2 states on 14th Amendment grounds. But if he gets a conviction on it, he'll be automatically removed from every state. So then what? What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? You're going to go find somebody who wasn't tainted and shown that they had no ability. I mean, Ron DeSantis spent $150 million to get 24,000 votes in Iowa. He spent $6,400 per vote, which is the most anyone's ever spent per vote in an election ever. Dwarfing the previous record holder, which was Michael Bloomberg, who spent about $400 per vote to get trounced in 2020. So Ron DeSantis is not going to be it. Nikki Haley, she's not going to have the appeal. She's already tainted by the process. So they're going to pick somebody who had nothing to do with the primary. And I think that's why Mike Pence dropped out before any of the debates. He's like, I'm out, because he's hoping that they'll have any airtime of him saying things. And I think that's why we saw the governor of Wyoming pop up on 60 Minutes. Was basically like, hey, look at this guy nationally. He thinks global warming's real, but he's a conservative. And so I think it's going to be someone like that who gets tapped at the Republican National Convention and pisses off a huge swath of the electorate who will, I don't know, do write-in campaigns or vote third party at a protest, and it's going to be absolute chaos. That's what the crystal ball is telling me on that one. Robert Armstrong, hello from Northern Ontario. Tippy nipply out there, isn't it? Yogi, 2012. Ralph Norman will be on the What's Bothering Me podcast next week talking about MMTLP, LFG. Excellent. Let him talk away. And hopefully he brings up what a piece of shit that Forbes article was. Kelly Reed, China's largest brokerage, Critic Securities, has banned short selling for some clients. China seems to be entering a severe recession. China 2023 GDP growth by sector, real estate down 1.3%. Real estate has to be down way more than 1.3%. It is 1/3 of their entire economy, and nothing's getting built and nothing's getting sold. So China definitely puts their thumb on the scale when it comes to economic data. So they're probably like, we'll just tell them it's down 1.3% when really it's down like 90. So I mean, they stopped releasing unemployment numbers because youth unemployment got skyrocketed so high they just don't release them anymore. So youth unemployment's like 50%. It's like Islamic nations right before the Arab Spring. If your youth don't have jobs, have nothing to do, a revolution happens eventually. You need to keep the youth employed and doing something, or else they're like, this system sucks. Let's tear it down and make a new one. What are they going to do? They're a bunch of old people, and so you got to keep them employed. Kelly Reed, meanwhile, local governments doing everything they can to ramp up on non-assets industries from service manufacturing. How long can they keep that up? Not very long. China does not have the wealth available to create a service industry, service economy, and they don't have international currency to keep it afloat. And they don't have, they can't do it. The middle class is way too small and just got smaller over the last 2 years. Spy 620. Lee Houston. Okay. What's Bugging Me podcast? Oh, not What's Bugging Me podcast, not the What's Bothering Me podcast. Noted Yogi. Sis54, Russia keeps crying about the sale of Alaska being illegal, although a talking point since the 90s. Do you think an administration under Trump would give it back, help me win, and you can have it? You can have it as a deal. Russia is never getting Alaska back. Period. I'm pretty sure the very tiny population of Alaska could whoop the Russian military at this point. They're not. It's been 100 and what? When was the deal to buy Alaska? It was 1867. It was about $12 million, I think. So, yeah, there's treaties. It was signed by the governments of both countries. It's not going anywhere. It's part of the U.S. now. It's populated by people from the U.S. U.S. military bases there. Russia is not getting Alaska back in any way, shape, or form. I mean, if Russia could, exploit their natural resources in a way to make money on the market in Siberia, then perhaps without U.S. companies doing all the work for them, then perhaps they could somehow mount a viable attack to get Alaska from us. But they need American companies to even exploit what they have in Russia, so they're not getting. And when Putin finally dies, my guess is China takes over Manchuria and a big chunk of Siberia and takes that back. Because, I mean, if they're going to complain about Alaska, which was purchased using treaties and signed agreements, Manchuria, which was just straight up taken from the Chinese after World War II, definitely does not have any historical context for why it belongs to them. And, Ukraine, not part of Russia. It was taken over by Russia in the 1930s, and that's how it became. And, Stalin had a whole quote about changing the map. He invaded Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia. He just invaded those countries and like, you're ours now. That's how they tried to establish that there's historical connection between those places. But like, they literally were paid money for Alaska, and they were like, take it. So no, they're not getting it back at all. Andrew Stewart, Houston. What do you think about China shutting off short selling for retail investors, but not institutional? Wonky. Because institutional investors want to make money. And those institutional investors are the members of the Communist Party. The workers are not members of the Communist Party. They're just workers. And so, fuck them. Michael Harrow of China prints. Sorry, I missed one. I'll do this one first. Okay. Michael Harrow of China prints. Then it is a can kick. If China taps offshore money, then it's desperation. Would you agree? Never thought about it that way. Makes sense to me. That's good. It seems to follow logic pretty well. Person with no name. Why are congressional term limits unconstitutional? Same with Supreme Court. Although those justices were appointed versus elected. Just seems so back-asswards and ripe for corruption. I'd support like a 3-term limit in Congress, or an age limit, or making the federal courts like the bankruptcy courts. I think bankruptcy judges, because bankruptcy courts were created by Congress. Like, bankruptcies are Article 1, and then Congress was like, okay, we got so many bankruptcies in this country. We're going to attach them to the Article 3 courts, the district courts. And so like they fall under the district court purview, but they're Article 1 judges, and they don't have lifetime appointments like federal judges. So we give them like 14-year appointments. I'd be okay with judges having appointments. Make them so they go longer than, presidential elected terms, so something doesn't renew every term. Stagger them, but make it so you could be a federal judge for 1 term, make it 14 years, and then you have to go back to private practice or whatever. I don't think we should have people who are a cajillion years old who don't know how the boop machine at the grocery store works when scanning for groceries. Like, those people should not be deciding how the country works. So yeah, I would love that, but you're gonna have to make a constitutional amendment to make it happen. And I don't see anyone in the United States having enough consensus to pass a constitutional amendment in this current environment. So good luck with it. It's way things should be, but they just aren't going to be that way. First one, no name, hit the like button. Oh yeah, hit the like button, subscribe, high five your animals. Jason Blackwell. Houston, I discovered a new fragrance for introverts. It's called Leave Me the Fuck Cologne. All right. That's a good pun. ECB, do we give our tax preparers the Fidelity paper prepared 2023 tax forms, or hold off? I don't want to miss out on new equity. You got till April 15th unless you extend to October. I would definitely call the broker and be like, hey, it seems to me like you guys screwed up. At least get that on record. Ask to talk to a compliance officer. If they don't give you a compliance officer to talk to, record the conversation and then file a whistleblower report saying, hey, they wouldn't make their compliance officer available to me as required by law. And maybe you'll get money out of it. I don't know. And then talk to your CPA and be like, look, explain the situation to them. Like, I didn't sell these. I'm still waiting for equity. It's being held for organization. And they might be like, all right, we'll do this thing and file it this way. But yeah, talk to your accountant. Oh my God, would do with Nub. If you didn't sell, you didn't incur a loss. That's the way I see it. Antonio Baez. Can I read? Happy birthday, HW. Of the Volkswagen MOAS, the short interest was only 12.8% during the sneeze. During the squeeze, GME short interest went over 100%, and even in mid-2022 at double the Volkswagen numbers. Yes. Because they were actually being forced to close in Germany. So Volkswagen's a German company, Frankfurt Exchange. There wasn't naked selling going on, and Porsche owned so much of the company that when the price went up, the brokers there were like, you need to close your position. And they were forced to close their position for a lot of money. And the only reason that squeeze stopped was because the government negotiated with Porsche to sell a huge chunk of their holdings in Volkswagen. And that's it. Here, our government sucks, and our regulators suck, and our brokers suck, and the hedge funds suck, and the market makers suck. Everybody sucks, and they suck so hard because it makes them a bunch of money that they steal out of our pockets. So if they actually didn't suck, there would have been forced closings happening on the share price for GameStop back then, and the price would have gone to infinite levels at that point. It would have been insane. But everybody sucks, so here we are, hoping they stop sucking, because I think they're realizing what a problem their sucking has created, and that we are now in a suckfest economy where they're just like all day long, and it's not going to be great for everybody. Person no name. Whatever happened to those expired swaps from UBS? Someone was saying that there's a T35 on those expired swaps now. So now we wait and figure out what's happening with that. I have no clue. Nothing happened on the 8th. So now we wait 35 days from that. Just the whole T35 thing is so stupid. Like, hey, why make dates happen if there's a date after the date? Everything's a dumb system. Coffee Donuts and Homer. DWAC was off the chain today. Somebody needed to boost their numbers. Was Marge calling? No. A filing got made. Let's see here. Let's find it. Iggy sent it to me, so I just got to find it where it is here. It looks like straight up money laundering is what the filing looks like. Like, I think somebody's going to go to prison for this. Where'd it go? Yeah. Okay. SEC Gov. Scene. Chrome. Boom. That one. Yep. All right. So here is an 8K that was filed back in January 10th. And previously disclosed in support of Digital World Acquisition Corp., DWAC, or the company. Proposed business combination, the business combination with Trump Media and Technology Group, TMTG, Digital World entered into securities purchase agreements, SPAs, with certain institutional investors, the PIPE investors, pursuant to which PIPE investors agreed to purchase up to an aggregate of 1 million shares of Digital World's Series A convertible preferred stock. So 1 million shares. Keep that number in mind. 1 million shares, right? At a purchase price of $1,000 a share. They're buying 1 million shares at $1,000. They're spending $1 billion for 1 million shares in a stock that's trading for not close to that. For aggregated commitment of up to $1 billion in private placement, the PIPE to be consummated concurrently with the business combination. So basically, someone is spending $1 billion for not very much to get $1 billion into someone's pockets. This company makes $1 million a quarter. So every 3 months, Truth Social makes $1 million. That is pathetic. It loses $31 million in that time. So they make $4 million a year, lose $120 million a year, and someone's about to pay $1 billion for it. For a million shares of it. So the stock price went woo! Yeah, it's craziness. I don't know. I look at this and I think, okay, there's some money laundering going on, and someone is going to prison for this. My guess is they don't have very good attorneys, because Trump has never been able to hire good attorneys ever. So someone who's complete dog shit probably wrote this whole thing, made it available, and they're like, yeah, we're going to launder $1 billion to somebody. And it seems crazy to me. Like, absolutely nuts. You only make $1 million a quarter off this company while losing 31 million. It's poorly programmed. It's been hacked so many times. Oh my goodness. They have like no security at all for the website. People won't pay ads because a whole bunch of white supremacists hang out there. So you have zero ad revenue. I don't know what people are hoping to get out of this. So it's definitely seems to me like a money laundering operation. Eric Switer. He's not a chief executive officer. Didn't what's his butt? The weirdo congressman that sued the cow and his fake mom on Twitter. Didn't he quit to become chief executive officer? Oh no, he's chief executive officer of Truth Social. DWAC is a different company, so Eric Swinder is a different dude. But yeah, crazy town, absolute crazy town. $1,000 a share. Well, why? $1,000 a share for stock. What was DWAC trading at on the 17th? DWAC share price $50. Okay, it's up. If we go back to the 17th, it was trading at $20. So they released a document saying, hey, someone's going to pay us $1,000 a share for this, and everyone, and now the price is flying through the roof. It's up 100 and whatever percent. So if you had calls on this, you're making a fortune right now. It does not seem at all legit what's going on. Seems like Crime Central. There's crimes going on. I would not want to be associated with them because it seems like crime going on. Julio DeSantis 2028. Keep the faith, my man. Oh. How did DeSantis ever get the original, like, what term? What's the term I want to use? Like, gravitas? No. Marketing? No. Reputation? Reputation as being, like, serious and capable and smart, because none of that has come across at all in anything he's ever done since then. The mediocre white manness is very real. I mean, there's like 20 million people in Florida? How many people are in Florida now? Florida population. 21.78 million people. There's 21.78 million people, and Ron DeSantis is the best of you? Come on. Come on, son. All right. ECB, how much cash are we getting? 44.27 or measly 12? Talk about BBBY? Not a clue. Because we don't actually know the true share count or how much money will be used to pay off UCCs, the unsecured creditors, or if any of the cash from the Brandon Meadows claim is what this, we don't know. It's all speculation at this point. $12? Cool. $44? Even better. If the floor price is well over 7 cents, I think the shorts are going to have a hard time, because all of a sudden, like, hey, you got this company, we can now do a reverse merger with another company, and ha-cha-cha-cha. And all of a sudden, you get stock in multiple companies coming out of it. The shorts are screwed. That's the case. New year, new name. There's also a great arbitrage opportunity between Chinese and Hong Kong stocks. I'll have to look that up. I had not thought about that. Scott Pollen's here. Oops. And Scott Pollen, Scott Pollen just made the whole chat reset. Okay. Where were we? Oh, there's the DeSantis 2028. Okay. Jim and Nias, Houston, is there a reason why learning a third language is easier than learning a second language? It took me forever to learn Spanish, but I feel like I'm speed running Mandarin. I have no idea. I poorly learned a second language, and that's about all I managed to accomplish. My sister Ashley, who speaks 11 languages fluently, she also went. She as a human being, just was like, oh, that's what you're saying? I get it now. And then she went to school and learned even more about linguistics. And now you could like drop her off in like a jungle in Papua New Guinea where there's some like local language for a particular village, and in like 3 days she'll be speaking it. It's the weirdest thing. I do not have that superpower. So I'm a terrible person when it comes to being it's not polymath. What's it called when they have multiple languages? Cat. That's the cat because the monkey butt's on the floor, so I can't ask her. I can't see her face at all. Not polymath. I can't remember. Polymath is when like you master a whole bunch of stuff, but there's a particular phrase for when you like know a whole bunch of languages. Someone will know it and pop it up in the chat there. Chase Chapman, nothing like going to bed to the smooth, silky voice of Houston Wade. Catch you later, man. Peace. We close, Casey. Scott Lumley, Houston. You're the best dude. I really miss you when you're sick. I really hope I get to buy you a nice dinner one day. Man, I cannot wait to get the 4x4 RV and Monkey Butt and I zigzag the nation having lunch or dinner with everybody. That's going to be like the best. Person no name. So puts on DWAC expiration date. Ooh. Was there an expiration date on that sucker? They just said there's going to be an agreement for those things, but I don't remember if there was there it is. Was there an expiration? So filed May 27, May 2022. I don't see an expiration date on this $1 billion deal popping up. I don't see a date that says like they'll do it by this date. So don't know. Personal name. Personal name gifted 5 memberships. KYP got one. Avocado's got one. Cradle for breakfast. Rupert Trooper and Keith Lander and Lila. Woo! Yeah. Polyethylene. Polygot. Thank you. Polygot. Bex and Prontal. That's the word we're looking for. Polyurethane. Polygot. I'm so bad at the multiple languages thing that I couldn't remember the term for knowing multiple languages. That's how bad I am. So, polygot. Bing! All right. Coffee, Donuts, and Homer. Susan Trimbath said FTDs were the big story, not naked shorting. FTDs are naked shorting. You can't get an FTD unless somebody's naked shorting something. So it's the same thing. It'd be like saying, it's not cars that roll along, it's their wheels. Like cars have wheels, man. I don't know. To get an FTD, you have to have a naked short. That's what happens. Scott Paul on something GameStop. Tammy F. Hello, Houston. Hello, Tammy F. GV, Ape Frog. Great intro, Houston. Thank you. Coffee Notes and Homer. Scott, give Houston Jamie's contact info. Jamie posted a message on the last video saying, "Hey, I miss you." And I was like, "Hey, I got kicked off YouTube, so send me a message on Reddit." And so I gave him my Reddit. So hopefully I'll hear from him, and we'll get Jamie on here, and we'll yak and have a great time because I miss that guy. Aaron Salentine, Houston. I have a question. If you buy an apple from a store and then come back later and say, "I don't want a refund," and leave the apple on the counter, the employee eats it, then is that a crime? What? So you buy an apple, you leave with it, you come back and you're like, "Actually, I don't want this apple." And they're like, "Oh, you want a refund?" You're like, "No." And then the employee eats that apple. Is that a crime? I don't think so. I think that qualifies as abandoned property. Or you literally just gifted the apple back to the store. So, I don't think it's a crime. I mean, maybe there's a law in Tennessee. It's like, gifted apples cannot be eaten. It's a felony, and you'll go to prison for 10 years. I don't know. Bex, Houston, happy birthday. Glad the show's back. And GeoGuessr too, even though I crashed out fast. I did GeoGuessr last night. Did okay. The internet was really terrible. It was taking forever to load the pictures, and I think I spent half the evening just waiting for the images to load so I could see where I was. But I got a few. I did pretty good. I got all the countries right. That's for sure. I nailed 3 of them and got within on the other ones. Aaron 17, well, it happened to me. I felt like shit, got fired, was 12 hours in custody. What? So you were working at a grocery store. Someone bought an apple, right? And they came back, gave the apple back to you, and like, I don't need a refund. So you ate that apple. And then they arrested you and fired you? That seems like something a lawyer would absolutely love to take on contingency and just sue the hell out of the grocery store for it. And they won't even want to go to trial because that'll be like an NBC Nightly News is like, you'll never guess what happened with Kroger or whatever. And they'll just give you a giant settlement and be like, that's the weirdest thing in the entire world, Aaron. That is so weird. To me, that wasn't a crime. Yeah, it doesn't seem like a crime at all. The store got their money, the customer didn't want a refund, and left. Yeah, it seems like it's an apple. So it's what? 30 cents? Give them a quarter and a nickel. And be like, oh, there you go. I paid for it again. That's fucking weird, man. Plus, like, it's not even a felony, because the felony it has to get to $250 or more, and the apple is not worth $250. So they're spending more money. Like, the police department is spending more money, the prosecutor's office. It's just a nightmare. It seems like a really stupid... That's dumb. That's really dumb, Aaron. I'm sorry that happened. Guts for the long term is here. KYP looking good, Houston. Thank you. Scott Pollan, James' email is on his YouTube page. Fantastic. I'm going to go see a lawyer tomorrow. Wait, this is a recent thing? Oh, definitely go see a lawyer. Sue the shit out of them, Aaron. And if you need like GoFundMe, because a lawyer should just take this thing as contingency or pro bono or something, because it's so ridiculous. But if you do need legal funding to fight this, I will put a thing right there for people to donate to. Guess for long term, thanks for being live. Thanks for being live, not thanks for being alive. Just doing what my parents made me do. Being alive. Coffee Nuts and Homer. Thanks, Houston. Get Jamie on the show. I'd love to. It's been so long since we had Jamie on here. 74. Have you called Fidelity about your BBYQ listed incorrectly? I've not gotten my statement yet from Fidelity. So I said, hey, you're getting it soon, but I've not been sent mine yet. I'm sure mine's gonna be like everybody else's, but I'll when I get mine, I'll complain. Jenny Bachelor, Houston, check out ISS Great Sci-Fi. That's the one about like there's Americans and Russians on the space station, and then Russia and America get into like a nuclear war. So there's like a mini war on the space station. All right, I'll check it out. It reminds me of in the World War Z book, the Americans who are on the ISS, like watching the world just fall apart from where they were and being like, shit, we're stuck up here. No one's going to come up and rescue us. We have one Soyuz escape capsule. And if we land somewhere, hopefully on land, then what? Now we're in the middle of all this. It was a pretty interesting thing to watch. Like they're using like telescope and like watching people get taken down by zombies and stuff. Oh man, I wish World War Z was made into like an HBO miniseries, because that book is so profound in how humanity handles crisis and what glaring problems there are with not only with like epidemiological response, but just crisis response in general. I would love to see it played out just this exact same way it's written in the book, as if they're interviews in a chapter and people are like, telling their story and then sitting in the chair talking to the UN investigator. And then, and then it happened. Zombie apocalypse stuff. And plus I want to see the scene with the wiener dogs. Scott Pollen, if MOAS, I'm going to use a Billy to launch the ISS into permanent orbit so it could be a museum in the future instead of deorbited. It's supposed to be deorbited, what, like 2030, somewhere around there? I mean, it's $100 billion you spent to put that thing up there. We could have put a base on the moon for the price of the ISS. So, like, why are we deorbiting the thing rather than just pumping it back up there again? I wonder how much the ISS smells like farts at this point, though. Because you're in a tube. You know everyone's gassy because they're eating space food and there's like 0G, so it's just gas central. I wonder how farty it is. Like, you open the Soyuz capsule and you step in and you're like, whoo, this is ripe. How good are the air scrubbers? Like, is there a potpourri basket? Like, what? If an astronaut pops up in the chat, can you please tell me how farty the ISS is? I would love to know. Just how much you eat each other's farts up there. D, the scammers on X are unbelievable. Talking about ham shortcut. I don't know enough about that, D, to go into that further. I thought you were talking about the ads on X. So people send me links to X because I don't cruise on there anymore on Twitter. But they send me, okay, well, check out this link. I check out the link, and it is the worst like drop delivery scams happening. There's one showing like, hey, get king crab legs mailed to you. King crab, cheap, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, this is a total scam because the king crab season has been canceled. There are no king crab for sale anywhere. You're not going to get fresh Alaskan king crab direct mailed to you via this Twitter ad because there is no king crab because the season was canceled. So you are getting scammed faux show by that Twitter ad. And Twitter is not doing anything about it. Thought that's what we're going to talk about. Nobles, Houston, glad you were better. Sorry if I asked before, but what do you think about Trump-related stocks like DWAC, rum, etc., considering current political climate? I mean, he's got a cult of personality. So you have people who will drop money in this thing because they want the man to succeed, and him succeeding to them is them succeeding, right? So they're tying their entire identity to that. I think they're going to get burned really, really bad. True Social is a very poorly run company. It loses an incredible amount of money. Its user base is limited to really old people on Social Security. So, and you can't advertise on there. There's no way they can sell ads on that. Because you don't want to have someone doing a giant screed. This whole reason why Twitter's failing miserably with advertisers is because there's so many Nazis on Twitter right now that you don't want your Marriott Bonvoy ad to pop up underneath like, hey, you know what would be great if we killed all the Jews. You don't want that screenshot going around the internet. You don't be like, hey, Marriott Bonvoy, do you support this? So that's why Ford and Budweiser and IBM, they're all pulling their ads off of Twitter. It's the same reason why none of them will advertise on True Social. The ads on True Social are like, the world is going to end. You need a basket of seeds and gold. And that's the type of stuff that you get on True Social. Like, hey, do you need a silencer for your gun? That's the type of stuff they get because those people, their entire demographic are like militia members anyway. But the money that the individual, like, I build bunkers for you people make is nowhere near the level of an international corporation like Ford or IBM. So you can't charge that much for ads. And the programming of the website's so terrible that if you're going to do targeted ads, I don't know how they'd actually do it. And you can't, there's not enough money in the world to get people who are good at their job to go work for True Social. They're not going to be like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to leave Amazon and take this opportunity at True Social because they're promising me a lot of money. It's not going to happen. You're going to get ideologues who aren't that great at their job or can't work elsewhere. Like, if you're going to program a website, you may as well work for, like, PeopleSoft and make software for a hospital company. Or take a job with, you know, Iowash County website and like put the other thing because like you may as well get a pension out of it. I honestly think probably most of True Social has probably been outsourced people in India anyway, and you know they don't care. But yeah. Get the read. Houston, doesn't it seem like the Fed trying to help stabilize the economy is like holding a ball underwater? Eventually the ball will bounce right back up at full force. Yeah. Julio sent me an article about the Treasury. Treasury has made a website that if you are an owner of a company, you're supposed to register and to show if any money is flowing like offshore, right? And they are getting so many complaints from people like, oh, take this website down. We don't want to be a part of this website because they're offshoring U.S. cash. They're trying to do these little things. Not sure how great the registration site's going to be if there's like no enforcement. Like if Treasury can't go out and like arrest companies for not registering on this site, be like, yes, these are Cayman accounts. Sorry. I don't sure how great it's going to be, but they're doing little things like the SEC trying to get short sellers to tell everyone what they shorted, right? Because we have to see what the longs are. Well, let's see what the shorts are, right? And getting complaints there. These are baby steps. The Fed itself is trying to soft land the economy, and everyone thinks they're doing a great job because the SPY just hit a record last week. But we're about to see regional banks across this country get nuked because commercial real estate is worthless and regional banks are the bread and butter financiers of commercial real estate. So they're toast. They're gone. You might as well just dead man walking them right now. Those regional banks are going to disappear. And those regional banks, like, there are regional banks who are bigger than Washington Mutual was when Washington Mutual collapsed. At the time, Washington Mutual was the largest savings and loan in the world when it collapsed. And there are regional banks who are bigger than that now, 16 years later. So they're toast. Then there's going to be all sorts of weird, like who owns this commercial property, who wants to own this commercial property, because the REITs are walking away. They're like, I'm not paying for that. And the banks don't want it. And if they try to sell them, it's going to bring down the average price even more for those places. And if they try to rent it out, the rental prices are going to be so minuscule, you might as well not make any money off of it. I don't know how you soft land that. If New York City has like 100 million square feet of unused office space, in New York City, like Manhattan's entire purpose is for people to come into the city, work there, and leave. What's that do for Manhattan? Okay, we're going to build a whole bunch of apartments out of this place. Neat. Where are they going to come from? Right? There's no reason to live in New York if you're not working in New York, right? So why are you there? Might as well, move to a small town somewhere as long as they got good internet and be comfortable and have to be quiet. And I don't know. It's definitely weird. I see all the bad stuff on the horizon, but then I see all these reports that are like, consumers are happier than they've ever been. I don't know anybody who's a consumer who's happy. Like, I live in a very wealthy community, and all I hear from people is like, things aren't good right now. So I don't know who they're interviewing for this. People will be like high-fiving and be like, yeah, better than ever. I don't know who those people are. I don't know. But yeah, when a global economic correction comes, it comes, and there's nothing the Fed can do about it at that point. They can like tweak here and there until there is a recession, and then you got to do the recession stuff. So that's why I don't think they should cut rates until there's a recession. Because if they cut rates before then, we're going to get the recession anyways, and it's going to be like 2020. In 2017, 2018, economists were like, we need to raise rates. And Trump's like, fuck you. No. And he literally in 2019, he said he wanted the Fed to make negative rates, meaning if someone borrows money, they get paid for borrowing the money. Okay. And so when COVID hit in 2020, the interest rates were like 1%. So all you could do is cut them to zero. All right, that's not going to spur anything. And because you couldn't cut rates from like 5% down to something low like zero, you didn't spur any economic investment in the economy. So you had to print like $20 trillion instead. if we had the ability to cut rates a huge amount from, raising them in like 2018, 2019, it would have allowed us to print a lot less cash to dump into the economy to keep it alive, which would have eliminated a bunch of pressures on the inflation we saw, which forced us to raise rates again anyway. You don't want to raise rates when the economy is in the shitter. So you want to do it when things are going well. But when there's like massive inflation, things are not going well. So you had to raise rates to stop the inflation from happening. And I don't know. That ball is going to bounce up to the surface anyway. Ed Word, Houston. Charlie Gasbag blaming Reddit pumpers for people buying BBBY, but I, for one, blame you. Without you and your live stream, I wouldn't have known about it, and I thank you for the rest of my life. Well, I mean, others were talking about it. But, as long as everyone understands, when you invested in BBBY, it's a lotto ticket. When you buy a lotto ticket at the grocery store, you've got a very small chance of winning, a huge chance of not coming close to winning, right? BBBY is the exact same way. But to me, it's 50-50 though. It's like 50% chance the money's gone forever, 50% chance there's a credit bid and we're winner chicken dinner. And I hope that got across to people all summer long when I talked about it. Like if you're spending money on this, don't be like over leveraging your house. Don't take out loans to do it. Just spend what you can afford to lose and hope for the best. I do think we're on the winning end of it, which is why I invest in that lotto ticket. But it's all we gotta wait for is for someone to want the company. And I think 6th Street, the money behind the 6th Street dip financing, they want something more than to get their money back. They want a profit. The only way they're going to get that profit is if they can take control of the company, utilize the nulls, and use it for a SPAC or a reverse merger to generate a huge amount of money in stock value. Just imagine. All right, we're gonna go back to the calculator here. I'm not gonna do the intro. We did the intro before. We introed before. We introed it. Let's say, all right, calculator, clear all this. Let's say they take control of the company, they do a reverse merger, and they acquire, I don't know, Lego or whatever, right? They bring a company in here, a legit company that makes billions of dollars a year, makes profit, is good to go, can utilize those nulls to not have to pay taxes for a very long time. Stock price goes bonkers, right? We're in a short squeeze territory. But when they do their reverse merger, or use it as a SPAC, and they acquire someone, whatever it is, right? They say, hey, we reserve the right to sell 10 million shares between now and 2027 at our leisure at the market, right? And a squeeze happens. And the squeeze is happening because there's billions of shares that are short, and the price goes into thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars. Okay, let's say the stock price gets to $8,000. $8,000 a share. And the company is like, let's sell some of those 10 million shares. We'll sell them here, sell them there while the squeeze is going on because we can. And they sell 10 million shares at $8,000 a share average. Whoops. Got to put the multiplication in there. At $8,000 an average. And they just made themselves $80 billion in cash. Basically for their $500 million loan investment as a dip financer for this company. Okay, you split that. You have to split between you and the legacy shareholders, which are us. So they made $40 billion. And the remaining folks, maybe they get a dividend windfall of that 40 billion. So let's cut this sucker in half. And let's say that there's 260 million shares. So divide that by 260 million. And that's a windfall of $153 a share. Cool. Fantastic. Not bad for a 20-cent investment, right? On top of whatever cash equity there was when the stock price went bonkers. So it's a great way to make a shitload of money. Orders of magnitude more than what you spent on lending money to the corpse of Bed Bath & Beyond. It's yeah, the potential is there. They can do some pretty crazy things with this, and I love it. I love the meltdowners on Reddit because like I had a dude. I sent a screenshot to Iggy the other day. The guy's like, "There's no nulls. The nulls aren't preserved." I'm like, "Yes, they are here." And I show him the documents, and he's like, "They sold everything. Why would people? Why don't want to have the company?" I'm like, "Dude, they didn't work on the nulls till after they sold everything. So figure out how a calendar works." And he's like, "I am a bankruptcy lawyer and I'm an expert on these things and I do reorganization companies all the time." I'm like, every single person I encounter on these meltdown pages is a bankruptcy lawyer or a CPA who works with bankrupt companies. Every single, all 10,000 of you on this page happen to be that. If you were good at your job and creative, you would have been hired to work on this case. Because the BBBY bankruptcy was a who's who of litigators for bankruptcy, people who uncover fraud and litigate fraud, people who work on mergers and acquisitions and creative capacities, folks who focus on nulls. Like, if you were good at what you did, you would have been one of the guys hired to work on this case. But because you weren't hired to work on this case, you did not meet the requirements to even have an opinion on it because you're bad at your job. You know how to liquidate companies, and that's it. Anything creative beyond that, you're like, well, I just liquidate them and then the chapter 7 disappear. You're not the guy they want to hire. They want to hire the person who's really, really good at uncovering fraud. The person who's really, really good at mergers and acquisitions. The person who's really, really good at preserving nulls. They hired those dudes, the who's who of bankruptcy lawyers, and you weren't on that list. So, but you know, none of them are lawyers anyway. They all say they are, and they're not fucking lawyers. Just amazing that every meltdowner happens to be a lawyer or a CPA. It's just incredible. What are the odds? And none of them are like, well, I never graduated high school and I work as a grocery bagger. They don't say that. They're like, I am a CPA. I'm like, cool. Then why don't you know about these tax laws that I'm reciting to you? It's pretty. And then they always do the, well, I'm going to bet you $10,000 and we're going to get an escrow, and they're just reading off their card at their whatever troll farm in the Philippines they're in. Okay, that one. Need a chalupa intro. Alexander's going to work on chalupa intro. I got to get some chalupa pictures. I got to get Chalupa doing some interesting things to get him pictures so he can make a chalupa intro. Scott Paul, what's up with Pulte and Gash hanging out? They got to be so shifty. Well, I mean, they're like the 5'2" guys club. Gasperi, I knew Gasperi was short, but I didn't realize he was Pulte short. Pulte is very. His shoes are like they were adorable. I was sitting there on that stage trying not to pee, and I just looked at his shoes. And I'm like, oh, they're so tiny and adorable, like little baby shoes. His adorable little baby shoes. He's one just like nom 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 nom. Yeah, he's a petite fellow. Nothing against short people, but Gasparino is the same height. So maybe that's why they're hanging out. What's the opposite of tip topper society? Any of you tip toppers? You guys have a tip topper society? We have a informal one here on the island, but everyone's tall here. BBBY, I grew my port by 14% in the last 2 weeks, scalping SPX options, 2,500, 2,800. Feels good to be making money from options again. There you go. Brenda, Queen of Swords. Who do I call until I have first trade and they were going to charge me $200 DRS and I not guarantee me they would get dried? So still in first trade and they won't answer my emails now. I would... In your app, there's probably a contact section. There's probably a phone number to call. I would call that and then ask to talk to the compliance. Always ask to talk to the compliance officer if you get the runaround from the operator. Be like, contact your compliance officer, and they have to make the compliance officer available to you. If they don't, they can get fined by the federal government. So And remind them of that. Like, if you don't make your compliance officer available to me, you guys are going to get fined because you're required by law to make your compliance officer available to me. So always just carrying it there, Brenda. BLH Trump is delaying like crazy, though, and SCOTUS might delay more depending on if they feel like their ruling might come too close to the election. Well, SCOTUS won't have the opportunity in like district court to worry about that. And like, how are you ever going to convict somebody who's a candidate for something if you always have to worry about being too close to election? Elections happen constantly. And they convicted LaRouche. Lyndon LaRouche got convicted, and he could be like, but the election was happening. So, you know, it's... I think Trump's going to get convicted. You commit crimes and you're on audio tape committing the crimes and on videotape committing the crimes. And then you sign like, hey, commit this crime at the bottom. And you got 40 plus co-conspirators who have all not turned state's evidence. You're screwed. Yeah, you don't, it's slam dunk, man. BBBY, thankfully, SCOTUS seems to be aware that it's in their best interest to make sure Trump isn't allowed to become president again. I think they got what they wanted, and now they're like, pass along now. Forward, ZZ9. Any update on BBBY? This Pulte stuff is killing everything for me. No current updates. What was the last thing I saw? Last thing was on Friday, I believe, or Saturday, and that was from the plan administrator basically asking everything to be under a confidentiality agreement from this point forward, which is interesting. Very interesting. So, Christopher Stedman, how's it Houston regarding MMTLP last year? To fail to correct 2022 tax year 1099 for you. My statement shows gain like I sold. Please advise. No, they did not correct it. And I talked to my accountant, and they're like, we can change these numbers. So far, the IRS has not arrested me. So that's what I did. KCTB, DeSantis quit. Did he get VP? Did Kenny G get Treasury Secretary? Seems like some juicy position was given out to end early. I don't think DeSantis was offered VP because a Florida state lawmaker today presented a bill to pay for Trump's legal fund. And DeSantis then tweeted out, that's not going to happen because I have the veto power. And so I think DeSantis is like, no, Trump can go suck it. I think the love affair is gone between those two at this point, and they now hate each other. So I don't think he was offered anything. Eric Anthill, did you hear about Rumble stock shot up today? I did not hear about Rumble stock. It went from $4 to, after hours, $5.96. It's up almost 50%. I don't know what news. Did they release earnings or something? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what news there was for Rumble. Rumble is another one of those things like you aren't going to be able to attract good advertisers. They have a lot of money behind them because Peter Thiel is a huge financial source behind them, but they're made by Nazis for Nazis. They are the home for white supremacists who get kicked off YouTube because Rumble does not moderate. So the worst of the worst will concentrate to there and BitChute. Those are the two where you can say whatever you want, whatever horrible Nazi things you want. They don't care. But you're not, if you're going to have a company that does not care at all, then you're throwing the ability to advertise out the window because you're not going to get Ford trucks. You're not going to get, Hilton. You're not going to get Kraft macaroni and cheese advertising. You're going to get, hey, buy our guns. Hey, buy our gold. Hey, buy our survival seed pack. Get your child a bulletproof vest. That's the type of stuff you get. And it's not going to pay like primetime advertising ever for that stuff. So I don't know. Maybe they had good earnings. Maybe they're making enough money off of tips and stuff. Whatever the equivalent super chats are for them on Rumble. Yeah. I did that one. Did the Rumble one. KCTB, I heart the old late night intro best. Anxiety Lord, work in Yokohama for 2 weeks. I know all the big stuff to do here, but do you know any secret cool stuff to do? I'd have to ask my little sister. She's the one who lived in Tokyo. She did say that the greatest pizza she ever had in her entire life was in Tokyo. So if you're near there, you can probably go get the best pizza you'll ever have in your life. Food. If you are in Tokyo, Yokohama. Little teeny tiny shops making weird, amazing food all over the place. That's what I would be focusing on if I were there right now. But I'll ask my little sister if what she's got. She did spend a lot of time working. She was working like 100 hours a week when she was living in Tokyo. So I think the only fun time she had was when she got to go eat food. So she'll know places to eat. Okay, KCTB Houston, happy birthday. Woo! Judge Gibson, pipe. Funding for merger, use this to buy this. KCTB, folks save up and buy a home. They are nice. My friend got one. Keith Lander, those are convertible shares similar to preferred, not common. For the $1,000 a share thing. Jake and Houston, good evening to all. What are your thoughts on MMTLP transitioning them, DRSing, or leaving them in your account? Looks like No Labs is taking a nap, 50 cents. What's your understanding on this? I transferred my MMTLP because I want the Nuco shares. And that's what I did. So they told me to do it, so I did it. As far as No Labs, I think will just sit this way until they finally file, or maybe it'll jump up before they lead into filing their FDA approval application. Once they get FDA approval, it's rocket ship time. So I really want to get a payout from one of these things, MMTLP, Bed Bath, GME, whatever, before they get approval, before No Labs gets approval from the FDA for selling their non-invasive glucose monitor. Like, if I could have 1 million shares of No Labs, ding, I'd be stoked. Frozen Day Productions. Wait. Oh, not yet. Here. Okay. Dog Mom. So great to have you back. All right. KCTB Houston. Is it untrue that ghosts don't exist? Yes or no? Untrue that ghosts don't exist. No? Ghosts don't exist. Avocados, what the hell is tip toppers? Tip toppers are tall people. Men over 6'2", women over 5'11". That's tip topper society. You just walk around, basically a basketball team, and you loom over people and you have conversations. That's what the tip topper society is all about. So, join tip toppers if you're tall. Oh, wait. Oh, my thing reset. Shit. Sorry. I answered questions out of order here. Okay, that's 1099 one. Anxiety Lord. Striking Viking, Houston, happy birthday. If you could reincarnate into any civilization, society, and history, where, when, why would that be? I mean, if I went way back in time and I could be like Houston, right? With all my memories and knowledge and stuff like that, Yankee King Arthur's Court type thing, I'd be pretty stoked with it because I'd be like 1.5 feet taller than any other human being alive, and I could be Goliath or something. That'd be fun. I've talked about this before. My largest unfounded fear is becoming Yankee in King Arthur's Court and being sent back in time to a period when everybody has like rotten mouth and their teeth are disgusting because there's no toothbrushes or toothpaste, and then being forced to become the inventor of toothpaste just because I could not deal with the halitosis that probably everyone in that period has, and it would absolutely horrify me. I can't imagine like coming across somebody and being like, you know what? I'm gonna make that person my wife. And they like have fucking like fleas coming out of their mouth or something. Just black rotted teeth and just, ugh, baby, let's go make out somewhere. Gross. Ew. No, not for me. I couldn't do it. As far as like interesting things, I think it'd be really fun to go back to, say, like Greek or Ptolemaic times and then becoming the world's greatest mathematician. And they just name everything after you because I've taken advanced calculus and I know more than all of them because none of them know what calculus is. I could be the inventor of calculus. That'd be pretty sweet. If it's, I get reincarnated and I pop back up with no memories and whatever. Whew. When was toothpaste invented? When was fluoride toothpaste invented? 1955. Okay. So, 1955. That's when fluoride toothpaste was invented. That's as far back in history as I would want to go and be reincarnated. There you go. That's it. I'll get lead poisoning because there's lead in all the gasoline, but at least my teeth aren't going to be full of cavities and no one's going to have rot mouth. So, William Nebergall, who invented toothpaste and cavity protection. My hat goes off to you, sir. Okay. B-Ball 3710. How does letting people pour into our southern border benefit the American people? Housing rent goes up and wages remain low. I mean, it's still not any higher than it was in the 90s. Yeah, a lot of people come across the southern border. That happens. We are a nation of immigrants. And we make the homes for where the people are coming from really, really shitty. If you're going to focus on border security, that is treating the symptom and not the disease. The disease is, destability in Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, Nicaragua, Venezuela, now happening in Ecuador. Ecuador was an incredible growing nation, wealthy, up until recently when the narcos took over. And their last president owned the bank the narcos all used because Colombia kicked all the narcos out. They're all now in Ecuador, causing wreaking havoc and just killing people. And now people want to flee Ecuador. Venezuela is a shithole because of sanctions. Well, Maduro's a moron, but also because of U.S. sanctions since 2014. Prior to 2014, Venezuela had the fastest growing economy in the world. They were having 50% growth year over year in their economy. But Maduro kicked out all of the foreign companies from the oil fields. We leveled huge sanctions against them, and now their economy has shrunk more than any peacetime period in history. So people are fleeing. Quarter of the population has left Venezuela. And where do they go? They head north because that's where the jobs are. They're some may head south, some may go to Colombia, some may go to Brazil, but those places are still developing nations themselves. So they head north, head up through Mexico, they come to the US. And if we had some sort of, diplomatic program to stabilize the Western Hemisphere, then we wouldn't have to worry about flooding people across the border because they would have no reason to go because there wouldn't be gangs running wild in their small towns and the governments wouldn't be totally corrupt. And weird juntas and despots and all sorts of things. Like we should, if we want to focus on border security, we should also focus on the cause of the need for we need a border security. Like I would love for North America to be so advanced for every nation that we could be like Europe and just have open borders and just drive to Mexico for the day, come back, whatever, not to worry about going through check lines because it's. People have money. No one's desperate. Don't have to worry about crime when that happens. Why not? I would love for that to be the case, but it's not going to happen until, U.S. and Canada, the two wealthiest, most powerful nations in the Western Hemisphere, start working hard on modernizing and safifying. Is that a word I want to put? Stabilizing these nations where people are fleeing from. Yeah. C.J. Johnson, Alaska belongs to Alaska Natives. I mean, all of the Americas should belong to the natives. That seems to be a give me right there. But you know, we're here now, and shit's gone to shit. So that's where we are there. Rupert Trooper, Houston, have you read the Chinese stock safety net they're injecting into their stock market? No. Rupert, Chinese stock safety net. Beijing will build safety net around housing hole. Beijing is likely to usher in more drastic policies to use the property market crisis to achieve the ultimate housing policy. So they're going to just give people homes like a real communist country? A lot of it's tofu ding construction, and just going to have buildings collapse and no one's going to want to be there. Everyone knows China has a big problem. Major developers are crippled by debts and have left millions of residential units unfinished. Few remember that the People's Republic has long strived for the socialist ideal of providing homes for all. In 2024, Beijing is likely to usher in more drastic policies to use the property market crisis to achieve its ultimate housing policy. China has one of the world's highest home ownership rates, more than 90% of urban households, defined as those with residence permits or hukou, own their own homes. The ratio is even higher in rural regions where villagers typically build their houses on collectively owned land. Nonetheless, China's population is extremely mobile. Official data suggests there were nearly 300 million migrant workers who work and live far from their hometowns, and more than 60% of them live in rental housing on an average monthly income of 4,615 yuan, about $650, 40% below the national average. Runaway home prices recent years have also made it difficult for people with hukou in large cities to purchase their own properties. This has instilled a sense of insecurity, especially among younger people, contributing to broader problems such as a dwindling birth rate and high youth unemployment. More and more young adults are becoming full-time children who live with and off their parents. In August, State Council published an all-encompassing directive calling for nationwide efforts for a new development model of the real estate market, with the provision of cheaper, subsidized homes being one of the key policy drives. The opportunity, so to speak, is the current property crisis. Nearly all major private builders, including giant ones such as Evergrande and Country Garden, have defaulted on their massive debts, leaving the construction of large number of residential projects delayed or stalled. There isn't an official tally of unfinished homes. In October, Nomura says they put the figure at about 20 million units nationwide, saying it would cost $440 billion to complete them all, which they definitely do not have. Most local governments rely heavily on land sale income, so in the past, they had little incentive to build an extensive housing safety net. The glut of incomplete homes, however, offers them a much cheaper option to take on an important political duty. So that sounds like they are going to want to finish these homes and then put people in them. But the fact that the population is shrinking, who are they going to put in them? If 90% of the people already own all their own homes. I mean, China's going to have to become an immigrant country, right? A whole bunch of immigrants moving to China. What do you say, China? You can do that? Aaron Sound Team by one share of DWAX, yeah, $1,000. XX, watch the show all the time. Great content. You blast Trump for taking a dump. Explain how Bidenomics works for anyone and how he accumulated more than $2 million in his life. Come on, bro. I mean, he's had 2 best-selling books that have sold millions of dollars, so that's literally where most of Biden's income came from. Also, the house he purchased in 1970 bought for like $100,000 and then sold it for like $7 million or something. So that's how Biden made his money. He didn't make it by insider trading stocks like other people in Congress have made their money. He also, as vice president, made $400,000 a year for 8 years. Yeah. But Bidenomics is so far has been, hey, let's do what we can to keep the economy from crashing because I don't want it to crash on my watch. It's been all about soft landing. They're trying to cut into inflation by raising interest rates. They have not raised interest rates, I think, as high as they probably should have been. And the talk about cutting interest rates, I think, is way premature, is that you don't cut at all until inflation is below 2%. Don't even think about it. Tell the stock market it ain't happening until inflation is below 2%. And if they won't listen, raise another quarter point to shut them up. It's been about not printing money, because if we print money, we get inflation again. So they've tried to figure out ways to keep too much capital from flowing through the economy. So things like reverse repo. But the problem is that the banks are doing so poorly because of commercial real estate and bond prices, interest rates being so high. They really had to like try and thread needles. They had the bank short-term funding program, whatever it's called, it's set to expire in March. It was basically a way like, hey, here's some emergency funds for you that you can pay us back with. But then the banks took that money, put it in a reverse repo, and got even more money out of it because interest rates were higher in a reverse repo. But at least they had the assets under management so they could, if they needed to, if there's a bank run, they could pay that off. They definitely are responding quicker than the Trump administration ever did to these problems. But I don't think without pushing harder for more manufacturing here in the U.S., I don't think we're going to solve a lot of the problems we face, which is why I think we should have a sovereign wealth fund in the U.S. That sovereign wealth fund can have a venture capital group in front of it whose job it is to invest in things here in the U.S. I don't know if you read about stuff like rare earth elements. China dominates the rare earth elements market. Like over 90% of all rare earths are owned by China. It's not to say the United States does not have rare earths. The U.S. has huge amounts of tin, coltan, and other rare earth elements, right? But we don't have a federal program designed to fund and exploit this stuff. China owns the land. They own the mining companies. They go and get it because they need it because they have a huge manufacturing sector. If the United States had huge manufacturing back again, and we need to have huge manufacturing back again, just for national security reasons, which is why we've done the Inflation Reduction Act and things had proposals for hundreds of billions of dollars to bring chip manufacturing back to the United States, because we realized oh crap, we're dependent upon computers. And if all of our computers are being made in China, China can shut off our access to computers at any time and then dominate us. So we need, for national security reasons, have the ability to produce these microchips here in the United States for manufacturing from computers, cell phones, cars, robots, whatever. I think that's a great thing. But the next step is the stuff, the components that go into those computer chips, we need to have mined here in the United States, or at least mined from allies that aren't controlled by China. So we don't have to buy the stuff through China at inflated prices that will then make our chips not competitive on the international market. So I would think if we had like a United States sovereign wealth fund that could then fund venture capital and work as like an investment bank, helping to exploit things like this. We could have a mines and development office like Canada has that goes out, finds where these minerals are, and then hooks up mining companies and investors to then start exploiting this stuff, so that when somebody finds a mine, they stake a claim like, hey, I got this mine. Woo! I need money for this. And everyone's like, I can just get it from China. We need to have like a national pride behind it and get those things. And I think that's one area that could definitely be improved as far as Democrats and Biden are concerned in that respect. Because it's one thing to make stuff here, but if you aren't getting the natural resources from at least our allies, if not getting it here ourselves, then we're just giving more power to our enemies, the Chinese Communist Party. But yeah, a lot of Bidenomics so far has been allowing the false inflation of the SPY and NASDAQ indexes based upon the fact that it's so heavily weighted towards 7 tech stocks. Like 32% of the S&P 500 is 7 tech stocks. It's supposed to be 500 stocks. Why isn't each stock 1/500th of the S&P 500? Why are they making the index so heavily weighted towards Google, Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia, Facebook, AMD, and I can't remember the last one. It seems like it's a false index in that case. So if perhaps, SEC steps in, like, whoa, if you're going to do these indexes to measure the strength of the economy and the market, make it actually indicative of what the economy and market is doing. A lot of inflation of the stock price is also happening as stock buybacks by these companies. Biden did try to introduce a way of taxing stock buybacks to make it kind of like, well, maybe don't do it. Right? I mean, one of the reasons why BBBY went under was that the bad insiders on the board voted to take the last $1.5 billion they had, and rather than pay off their $1.5 billion in debt, they did stock buybacks and had enough money for inventory in fall of 2022. So stock buybacks are not necessarily good. They will artificially and temporarily inflate your stock price. At the same time, cost the operating capital for your company and take it under, which is exactly what the shorts wanted. Allowed the shorts to short from a really high price down to basically zero, make a fortune, and it benefited them and not the employees or the owners of the company. So I think Biden was on the right track when it came to taxing stock buybacks, but I think it needs to be more painful than that. I think it needs to be like, you spend $1 on stock buybacks, you're spending another $1 on taxes on it. So they go, oh, I don't want to do stock buybacks right now. I'd rather do a dividend or invest in, a new factory or whatever. Like, do the stuff that perhaps would actually trickle down. Does that work for you, XX? Avocados doesn't remind me how much Florida sucks. Hello, avocados. Personal name, I meant the expiration date on the puts for DWAC. March, maybe, when Trump gets conviction. That actually would be a good, like, if Trump gets convicted, DWAC probably will go down, wouldn't it? That's a good thing to think about. Noted. Good thinking. Personal name? Yeah. Confusing. It seems silly that we will likely have to choose between Trump and Biden. Can we do better? I'd rather choose between Steve Harvey and Henry Rollins. I think it's insane that we've got two boobity-minded geriatrics would be the choice. And I wish that, like, the countries where you see amazing things happening, I'll be honest, they have youthful leaders. Geriatrics, they're at the end of the line, man. I don't know why they're even bothering. Like, you're 85 years old. Why are you still in Congress? You cannot be enjoying yourself, right? You're shitting in a bag. You have no idea where you are. Why don't you retire and, like, say hi to your grandkids or something? I don't understand the need. Like, I want nothing more than to never have to work again. Oh my God. Retiring early would be such a godsend. If all of a sudden I have $200 million and I'm like, oh, you know what I can do for the rest of my life? Work 80 hours a week. Someone put a gun in my mouth at that point. Like, why? Why would you do that? You made your nut? Now you can do other things. You can do hobbies. You can, I don't know if you want to start a company or whatever, but, like, if you're 85 years old and worth $200 million, you're not doing public service at that point. Like, Dianne Feinstein was not doing public service at 90 years old, completely Alzheimer'd out. Her public service days, the last time she had done something worthwhile was 20 years ago. All she had was power on committee via seniority, but the committee oftentimes could not meet because they had a minimum number of membership that had to meet, and she was constantly, like, in the hospital before she died. So, inject new blood, man. I am all for it. Inject new blood. There are very smart, competent people who are not a million years old who can do amazing things in this country. And I agree with you there. Nubertainment and my crew, MMTLP 2500 a share. I'll take it. I want more, though. Aaron Saltine, thanks, Houston. We'll let you know. I pray the lawyer doesn't cost much. Talk to them. Be like, look, we're going to sue the shit out of these guys, and they're going to offer a settlement. Let's do it on a contingency. And the lawyer might be like, all right, I don't think it'll take much. I mean, 10 hours of work for them to write the complaint and sue, right? Another couple $100 for a press release that goes out to everybody. Like, look at this silly crap the grocery store did to this poor guy. Had him arrested, fired him from his job, embarrassed him, blah, 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 blah. All over a free apple that's worth 30 cents anyway. It's going to be really, really bad PR for them. They're going to have to like come out. They're going to have their PR people come. That's going to cost them $100,000 to respond as it is, plus the legal fees on top of it. If you're going to take this to trial, it's not going to be worth it for them. So they're going to offer you a heck of a settlement, reject it, and they're offering you a better settlement. That's my non-legal legal advice. KCDTB, Jim Cramer just said Bitcoin can't go any higher, so how high will it go? Please ignore the Tether argument. Bitcoin only rises when Tether prints. So when Tether mints new coins, that's when Bitcoin goes up. If Tether doesn't mint new coins for the next couple of months, then Bitcoin's going to get shorted like crazy via those ETFs, and the price is going to go. The only buy pressure ever of any meaningful note on Bitcoin is when Tether mints new coins and starts buying Bitcoin. And now that Tether bought all their Bitcoin, now they're selling it. So the price is going down as they're selling it for cash. They're not selling it for more Tether, they're selling it for cash, and they squirrel that cash away somewhere. That's what Tether is doing. Tether is not backed. I know you said don't talk about Tether, but Tether is such a huge part of this because 55% of all Bitcoin transactions are done using Tether. Yeah, so Bitcoin will go back up again when Tether prints more again, but it'll be a couple months until they do because they got to sell what they just bought as part of their whole scam. Muley McWoolhead, seeds will be the new currency, they say. A little too much Walking Dead, I think. Nah. Hi, everyone. What's the channel about? Thank you for the answer. The channel's about whatever you want to talk about, Nobles, or Nama. Yeah. Neil, 191 Houston. They missed something about on BBYQ. Why are people speculating how much money would go to shareholders, etc.? What's the speculation based upon? So, over the course of the last 15 years, Bed Bath & Beyond did $11.8 billion in stock buybacks. So the speculation is that the $11.8 billion administrative claim against Bed Bath & Beyond has to do with a settlement that's perhaps been negotiated between JP Morgan, who did a lot of the buyback work, the old board who approved it, and so on, as part of a settlement for a possible lawsuit about purposely destroying the company, not obeying fiduciary duty, things like that. And that $11.8 billion is going to go back to the shareholders. Now, people have been trying to calculate what the actual float is, or the total outstanding shares of Bed Bath & Beyond is. And general consensus is leaning towards around like 260 million shares. If that's the case, $11.8 billion paid out to those shareholders would be like $44 and change per share. So that's the payout that people are speculating on. It's all speculation. We know that there's those administrative claims. We know that it happens to be the same amount as how much stock buyback was done by the board to artificially inflate the price rather than invest in things like logistics, a good website, product, things like that. So that's the rumor in the speculation there. Donkey Donks. Feb 9th, 21st, SpaceX launches Falcon 9. Word. Christopher Stedman in Houston regarding BBYQ. Do you think the 2/14 court date will be the big day? They've pushed this date ever since 10/24. That date was supposed to happen on 10/24. Got pushed to like November 28th. Then it got pushed to December 14th. Then it got pushed to January 17th. And now it's been pushed to February 14th. So, yes, unless they push the date further. Yeah. Jonas, let's talk MMTLP. Well, I got nothing new since Friday to talk about. I did talk about it a little bit so far. Blah, blah, blah. Currently dealing with one of the most pretentious condescending pieces of shit I've ever met at work. Any advice on how to deal? I never actually experienced somebody who was super pretentious and condescending at work. I've always had pretty cool coworkers. I did have one guy when I taught at the Art Institute who was an economics professor, but also taught math with me. And he was kind of shitty. He was an Austrian economist, Austrian school economist. I don't know if you guys know about economics, but Austrian school people, they're supply side guys, and they fail to recognize that economies have a human element, that like humans participate in economies, and they aren't just like robots who follow equations. And so a lot of stuff that Austrian economists push for fail miserably and don't work at all when it comes to actual economics. And we butted heads a lot, especially on like social issues, because he was horrible. But how I put him in his place was we group taught this math class. And this is not really a math class. It was like a giant tutoring lab. And we'd sit there and stare off into space unless a hand went up and asked us questions. Because they had little computer screens that were doing all the math stuff for him. And one day, there's three of us in there. There's myself, annoying Austrian economist guy, and then another cool dude who was a music teacher, but also had a degree in math. And so there's three of us in this room of like 100 students all on the computers, and we just would bullshit until the hand went up. And the music teacher guy, he had just purchased a house on the Florida Gulf Coast and was about to retire. So he was showing me pictures of his house and his new Mustang he bought and like his boat. It's like, yeah, it's my property and whatever. And then we joked about like, hey, better not live too long because sea level's going to rise. Ha, 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 ha. And then Austrian economist guy's like, the sea levels don't rise. I was like, what? He's like, sea levels have never risen. What the fuck are you talking about? I'm like, sea level's been rising 3.3 millimeters a year and increasing. In 1990, it was like 1.3 millimeters a year. Now it's 3.3 millimeters a year. Here we are 25 years later. Sea level is rising. Nuh-uh. I was like, look, if Greenland melts, it'll be between 20 and 40 feet of sea level rise just from the ice in Greenland. He's like, impossible. So I was like, everybody, all 100 students like stopped doing their thing. Like, we're going to do a math lesson here because I have to. And I went up on the board and I told Austrian school guys, like, look, dude, I'm going to have you Google things and I'm going to write the numbers up here. So like, how many square miles is Greenland? It's like, clickety clack, click, click, clack, 600 and whatever thousand square miles. Like, cool. Now Google the average ice depth of Greenland. He's like, click, 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 1.5 miles. So maybe, so we got 600,000 miles this way, right? And we got 1.5 miles this way. How much volume? How many cubic feet is that? And it was like 4.3 billion cubic feet. I was like, okay. Now, how many square feet is the oceans of the earth? And he was like, click, 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 click. All the oceans of the earth is like 139 million square feet. It's like, okay. So now let's divide 4.3 billion cubic feet by 139 million square feet. And let's just see, 139 million square miles. That's what I'm talking about, square miles. And it's like, let's see how many feet the ocean will go up if Greenland melts. And it was like 29 feet across the entire planet just for Greenland melting. I was like, okay, there you go. That's what happens if Greenland melts. The ocean level will go up. Like, well, ice is less dense than water. I'm like, okay, shave 10% off of it. No, it's only going up 26 feet. Okay. So that's how I put him in place, and he stopped questioning anything after that because he knew that I would stop the entire class and embarrass him in front of 100 students. So my advice to you is figure out a way to absolutely embarrass this coworker in front of everyone. Or you can just be like, hey, bud, stop being condescending and a dick. Because that's not going to work. They're still going to be condescending after that. And maybe even more so. But if you can now do it in front of a large group of people, they will absolutely fall apart. And then all the like bravado and whatever they had just goes burp, 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 and then they look for a new job and they disappear. So that is my advice. Aaron Soundteam, my manager told me when I was arrested, it's company policy of the store to take back the item and throw it away, not to be eaten. I mean, store policy is not a law. So there'd be no reason to call the police for violating store policy. That is not a legal matter in any way, shape, or form where like the criminal element of a police investigation would come in. So that right there seems to be A, false arrest, B, lying to the police for the reason of the arrest. So yeah, that you're going to get a nice settlement out of this, and I hope you do very well with it, Aaron. Burning alfalfa, what was the 10 billion inserted months ago? We just talked about that, so we're good. Avocados, Namastocks, rocks, sometimes jocks, and everything else. It's rock stocks and jocks. It's a pretty apropos summary right there. Especially if the jocks are baseball related. Jake King, Houston, good evening to all. What are your thoughts on MMTLP transferring them, DRSing them, leaving their account? Oh, wait, we did that one already. I already transferred them. So if you want my opinion, I transferred them. That's what I did. So take that as what you like. MS Houston, any thoughts on hydroelectric cars supposedly finding success in the 2028? These are hydrogen cars, I believe, right? So you take hydrogen, you combine it with oxygen to form combustion, or you can use it in some sort of fuel cell process and create electricity, and then it spits out water in the end. Fantastic, great. But to create hydrogen that's used in these cars, you have to take water and separate the hydrogen from the oxygen, which is a very electrically intensive process, which requires energy to do. And if the energy is coming from carbon sources, then you're just doing carbon sources with extra steps. If you are splitting these molecules apart using the sun or hydroelectric or whatever, awesome. I think it's great. I think it's cool. I think it's another attempt to fill a niche, but I think it's going to go kind of Betamax style, because I think the future is actually solid state batteries. Because with hydrogen fuel cell car, you'll get 300 to 500 miles on a tank, and then you have to go refill again. Hydrogen tanks are terrifying because if there's a gap in the hose, oxygen gets exposed to the tank, then you just create a giant bomb. Like with gasoline, the gasoline has to be exposed. There has to be enough of it so that in like a direct fire applied to it to make it scary. And most of the time that can just burn. Hydrogen, on the other hand, is a highly reactive alkali, and any exposure to oxygen results in a giant explosion. So it's not like, oh, we got a little hydrogen leaking here, and it will be explosion. They do have some cool porous tanks that have lots of surface area and pack a lot of hydrogen into them and are somewhat safer than like pressurized tanks. Even so, it's static bonding that has the hydrogen attach itself to the surface area of those porous tanks, and you have to pass a charge through it to get the hydrogen out. So if you've got weird grounding issues happening, a lot of hydrogen can leave the tank and then explosions. That's why I think solid state batteries are going to be the future, because solid state batteries, you'll charge in 2 to 10 minutes. You'll get 1,000 to 3,000 miles per charge. It is going to be a much more efficient, much more useful system than anything else. But if we do get hydrogen tanks, let's bring up all of the United States, then maybe we move to hydrogen. But I think a year prior to that, we're going to start seeing solid state batteries come into cars, and that's going to be the game changer. Frozen State Productions, Houston, Scott here. I'm time traveling to start. So I'll see you in here at the full show. Happy birthday. There we go. Oops. Where did... Louis, Scablands, tell us about it. We saw a documentary about some nonsense, and Scablands came up. Scablands are ancient. Well, there's ocean there, so there's like a lot of sediment from the oceans. There's a lot of volcanic ash as well from Yellowstone supervolcano, and there's a lot that's been laid down in the grasslands of dead things over the past 60 million years. A lot of fossils are found there because the region of the scablands was sort of like tidelands and estuaries. So with a lot of still stagnant water. And it was a big inland sea in North America. We can bring up, let's Google Earth it, man. Let's Google Earth it. Go like that. Get the Google Earth open. Come on, man. Boom. Make you smaller. Gotta bring you over to this window and then make it bigger again. Okay. So, wait, no, we're talking oh shit. I'm not talking about the wrong, I'm talking about the Badlands, not the Scablands. Oh my god, I'm such a fool. I'm talking about the Badlands, and you said Scablands. Scablands are in Washington. I was talking about the Badlands, which is this, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about the Scablands, which is this. This is from Lake Missoula. We talked about this before. Missoula, Montana, out here. During the previous ice ages, giant glaciers came down through the Rockies and blocking off, which river was this? Spokane River? I can't remember. Whichever river it is, it gets blocked off here, would cause the entire valley here, all through this, all these valleys here would fill up with water and become a giant lake. And then every few thousand years, the ice dam that was blocking this thing off would break, and this whole thing would drain out with an incredible amount of force. And you can see the scabs here. This is where the water came roaring out of Spokane Valley and across the Columbia Plateau. And all these coulees, these lakes here, were gouged out by this running water. And you can even see in some places, the land itself ended up having ripples like you get in sand. If you ever go to the beach and you can have like wave action, you can put on some goggles, stick your head in the water and see these little ripples. These ripples just happen to be gigantic. But the main portion of the roaring rapids that came through ripped down the Columbia River, ripped down through this area of the Columbia Plateau and back into the Columbia River and out. So you get this whole area of coulees. Coulee City here. And you have Dry Falls, which was like a mile wide, 900-foot deep waterfall that was traveling 100 miles an hour. And it scoured through this whole channel here, cut this whole channel out, where you got like Soap Lake and Lake Lenore and Blue Lake and the Sun Lakes and stuff. It dug through like 2,000 feet of volcanic rock all the way down to the water table. So these lakes here are actually the water table being exposed. And these cliffs are pretty tall. So these suckers are 2,500 feet, and the lake down here is 1,000. So it's 1,500 feet or so that they carved out in this whole region. Giant rocks were brought from Montana, from where Missoula is, through these river valleys that poured out, dumped across Washington State, where the water's going 100 miles an hour, and these channels are miles wide. I mean, you can just look at this chunk here, and we'll bring up our little measuring tape here. So this is in miles. This channel alone is 8.8 miles across. So imagine a wall of water, 8.8 miles wide, traveling 60 to 100 miles an hour and 1,000 feet high. That's what you had ripping out of this thing. And it shaped a huge chunk of Washington State. And the water came roaring down, cut through a huge chunk of the Columbia Gorge. And these cliffs are thousands of feet tall, the Columbia Gorge. And then when it got to Portland, or where Portland is, filled up the entire Willamette Valley. And so you can find in the Portland area, like rocks the size of apartment buildings that were from Montana, that were brought down by these waters. And then once it pooled around in here, it sloshed out and went out the mouth of the Columbia and out to the ocean. So yeah, the Scablands are this region in eastern Washington that was this plateau plains that got ripped apart by the roaring waters, and it left these really, really neat looking artifacts and these crazy coulees and these lakes that formed and weird waterfalls, dry waterfalls. And yeah, I mean, it's just beautiful, beautiful landscape. I mean, look at the way it ripped across all this land. This is all basalt, all just flood basalts from about 16 million years ago. And Cheney itself is built on one side of the Scabs and is on this weird little island. This is where Eastern Washington University is. But yeah, these are all created all this weird landscape is created by churning, broiling water from Lake Missoula ripping apart. And then if you go to Missoula, come on, if you go to Missoula, I got back to Missoula here. There we go, City of Missoula. You can actually see the shoreline of ancient Lake Missoula. So these lines are all the ancient shorelines lapping up against the walls of the Rocky Mountains. So all these lines you see right here, this is all ancient shoreline from Lake Missoula. So next time there's an ice age, the city of Missoula is gone because they'll just get flooded, and then all the houses they'll get ripped out off their foundations as this thing drains out when the ice dam breaks. It'll be exciting. That's Lake Missoula. Louis, thank you for the super chat there. So yeah, sorry, I confused Scablands and Badlands. So ignore the whole first part of that. That was talking about Badlands for some reason. But yeah, 10 o'clock. I gotta get going. JL Houston, do you recommend the same thing for BBBY to call Fidelity and refuse to allow them to shut out without a loss? I really picked some complicated shit to put my money in. I am going to have, hopefully on Friday, Shad's going to come back and talk BBBY because there's some legal stuff that's been going on and cases and decisions from courts. So we'll save that for Friday, maybe, because I'm not too sure what's happening on BBBY. I still have a few shares and I have no idea what, I think 150 shares or something. Yeah, we'll talk with Shad hopefully Friday. I gotta get back to him what time I can do it. We had him on some point this past summer and we talked about the weird legal stuff that's happening, and all the board members are facing problems for fiduciary irresponsibility for multiple companies they manage, including BBBY and like MoviePass and stuff, as well as some of them are facing indictments for working as false electors in states like Nevada for Trump. So some interesting things could be coming from that, and we'll get an update from Shad on that whole thing. I've been talking for 2 hours. I'm tired. If I didn't get to your questions, I apologize. Best of luck, Aaron Salentine. Don't go to jail over an apple. Get a lawyer who's going to sue the shit out of them for you and get a nice, big, fat $1 million settlement or more, and go from there. And you know what? If you do sue, let's bring your lawyer on and we'll do a whole show about how stupid it was for the grocery store to even do this over an apple. So we'll get some PR out there for you. All right. Cat? You have any good one? Dog? She's on the other side over there. Yep. Hi, dog. Look at your little face. Dog face popping up. Okay, everybody. Good night. I'll see you Wednesday, I think. We'll find out. Have a good one, and we will do... Where is that one? This one.
Houston, we have a problem.
It's a monkey.